Yeah, it's another one, another video coming down the pipe, and here we are. Yeah, hey everybody, Steve here, the retired hobby tech guy, smoking a great vanilla latte. Fresh, can't beat it. Yeah, went to a Korean hobby store, bought this thing here, GAT-X303 Aegis Gundam. Yeah, a lot of interesting things. As if I didn't have enough hobbies and things to take away from the hobbies that I already have by putting more hobbies, but this has been kind of a thing. It started with, I need a hobby besides going to the gym. I went into a store and I picked up some Warhammer stuff. And then I was like, hey, that Warhammer's pretty damn expensive. And I'm cheap. So how can we do Warhammer stuff? So it's like, oh, you 3D printing, resin printing. So I ended up doing resin printing. And then printed out a bunch of stuff besides Warhammer and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, wow, with my Saturn 3 Ultra, still works, still going. And then I was like, wow, I'd like to do bigger stuff. So do bigger stuff on there. And then finally it's like, well, wow, there's 3D printing. I'd like to do 3D printing, the FDM printing. And so I got one of those. Oh, and in between there, I got a laser engraver. So I laser engraved a bunch of stuff. Did some cool stuff, like that on glass and pictures and coasters and slate and all kinds of cool stuff. So yeah, then got into the 3D printing thing. And then, being retired here in Korea, we sold everything in the United States. Again, hobbies needed something to do. And long story short, a guy named Hack ended up on Check It Out and saying, hey, you need to get into this Gundam thing. At least try it. And he gave me a gift, and it was like, okay, well, you gotta get it. He forked over some money, which was greatly appreciated. And we went to a Korean hobby store that is close to where I live. Actually, there's a couple of them. We're gonna go to the other one later on. But yeah, so I wanted to get into this. So with that, let's jump into some things. And before we do that, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate that. And now let's check out the video of me buying just a little clip to give you a little bit of background on buying this thing that we had here, wherever it is. Yeah, okay. So let's jump into it. Braving the heat to get Gunpla. Yeah, thank you, Hack, for bringing me out into the heat. And yeah, we're going to be checking this out. So there's a couple of places that we can check out. One of the places is right here. We've got this hobby shop here, kind of a small place. It's got some stuff in it, and they do have Gunpla. And then right across the street, you see that place right there has got some as well. So yeah, I think what I'll end up doing is we'll go into this little store here. It's got some cool stuff right outside the gate, and you got a bunch of different stuff, all kinds of different figures and everything, One Piece, all kinds of stuff, cards, trading cards. Hi. So yeah, if you're interested in any of this stuff, yeah, they got Pokemon cards. They got cards that in Korean Pokemon, all kinds of wild stuff that I've never seen before. So yeah, they got that. And then they also have Warhammer stuff. So if you're interested in Warhammer, they've got some of the stuff there. Prices aren't bad. It's a good selection. And then we got models, and marble, all kinds of cool stuff. But we're looking for the Gunpla. And so we've got a couple of those. So Hack was talking about the Master, Gunpla Master. So it'll be interesting to take a look at that. And it looks like everything's already pre-colored. So this will be the first one that I've done one of these. So we might get this one. That one looks interesting. Wow, that's big. That looks pretty cool. Think that's good? Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll get that one.
This one?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay.
And all kinds of cards, trading cards, all kinds of stuff. So, alrighty. So, yeah. We got our first gunpla, and yeah, spent a little bit of money on that. Not too bad, but thanks to Hack. He helped funded that meth addiction. It's always the first one's free. So, okay, great. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, that was kind of the trip to do the little trip. Again, it was like 92, 93 degrees. There was a little bit of overcast, but man, humidity was rocking. Korea has some rough summers. So anyway, yeah, I saw the master one and I was like, you know what, that's kind of nice, but it was smaller. And then I found the big one that you could end up seeing on that's sitting on the desk there. Yeah, and I'm not sure about that. I don't think I know what I got myself into. Because, going from like Warhammer figures, 32 millimeters, and, some other stuff, and then printing resin, FDM printing of printed characters, where you've had to slice them up and have multiple parts and pieces and put them all together. You can see the Hulk standing back there. That's not bad. But this thing is a doozy. This thing is a doozy. So basically, before I wanted to jump into this, I wanted to take a look and see, well, what is this Gundam, Gunpla, whatever? And for those of you who are like me, who have no clue, Gundam is based off a Japanese show where people are inside these giant robots and they fight for good and justice or evil and oppression, whichever it is, and somewhere in between. Cartoon series, anime series that has been going on, I guess, forever and a day. You see some of the cartoons and it's like, wow, that's old. It's kind of like Speed Racer old, somewhere around that time frame. So, but this universe of Gundam has been going on for quite some time. And you have Gundam and you have Gunpla. Gundam is the actual, people would say, the real, the TV anime shows, the cartoons, the universe, the suits that are actually real in the show and the characters and so on and so forth. Gunpla is just plastic models, but you can get plastic models in both. But Gunpla is just plastic models that are versions of the Gundam. I don't know. It can be, they're kind of the same. When you read it, it's like, oh, Gundam is this, based off the TV show and actual models and of the series and the anime and the manga and all that stuff. And then you get to Gunpla and it's like plastic models that are, of the mobile suit and this and that, and it's like it's all seems all the same to me, but apparently it's not. So I know somebody's going to razz me about that, give me some scuff because I don't know what I'm talking about. But with that, I wanted to look into this because there's probably a little bit more going on for this Gundam stuff. So let's kind of jump right in for those who don't know. Yeah, they have their own wiki page apparently, and Gundam Wiki, not just wiki page, but Gundam Wiki. So it's got a number of things, pages, characters, and apparently these are all the characters that are in the show, and they all have their own backstories and so on and so forth, young, old, in between, all kinds of different stuff there. I mean, there's enough to, as if I didn't, series, anime, novella, manga, the game, there's just all kinds of stuff. So anyway, checking this out, it ends up that this GAT reminds me of, what was it, the Glockway bat, and GAT-X303 Aegis Gundam is a mobile suit introduced in anime mobile suit Gundam Seed. This is going to be a lot of words. Piloted by Athran Zala. He's a dude, and there's kind of the picture of what it's supposed to look like. Again, they're all type of kind of like mech suits where somebody's on the inside, and the people are really small, and the mechs are really big, and of course, that's how it goes. Designated as the commander unit of Earth's Alliance G project. Due to enhanced communication and analysis capabilities, the GAT-X303 Aegis Gundam is a heavy attack power as well as phase shift armor. I know people geek over this stuff, and can transform into MA or mobile armor due to its X300 series frame. Can you get the geek vibe that is coming from this? I can. It has two different submodes, cruise and attack mode. When in the MA cruise mode, it can reach a higher speed and acceleration, while in the MA attack mode, it can destroy an enemy ship or mobile suit with its 580 millimeter phase energy cannon, or grab onto them with their four limbs and destroy them using the cannon. So basically, reach out, grab, and boom, there we go. Other weapons include two head-mounted CIWS, which it doesn't tell you what that is, but I'm assuming it's bad. Handheld beam rifle, a shield, and a beam saber in each limb. So it's kind of like that Star Wars dude with the Grievous, Darth Grievous, with all the arms and all that stuff. Large sensor unit on top of its head. Unlike most suits, its main thrusters seem to be located in the side binders on its waist. So it's got a little side pack thing, apparently. Is that what it looks like? I don't know. I don't know what side. I'm assuming the side, or I don't know. Maybe that's it there. No, that's under his arm. I have no idea. But he's got these blades and whatever and all this stuff. So some of the armaments of this, again, the geek on this is heavy and deep. 75 millimeter barrel CIWS, which I wish I knew what CIWS meant. That would be something that they should, if you're going to throw an acronym out there, for the first time you should show the acronym, and then in parentheses you tell what it means, and then you could just go back to use it. Anyway, classified anti-air weapon, light projectile weapons can use to intercept missiles and destroy light armor, all of that good stuff. Beam saber has 4 beam sabers from its forearms and feet, and can be used simultaneously in mobile suit or mobile armor configuration. So we're doing all kinds of things with the hands and the feet. Shield, anti-beam coated shield, coating, kind of like Teflon nose stick on your breakfast pan. A 580 millimeter phase energy cannon, the largest caliber beam weapon mounted on a G project mobile suit ever. Likely to be the strongest, has enough power to tear through the entire width of an Earth Alliance battleship. You should just make a ton of these suits and, call it good. Rule the galaxy with an iron fist. 60 millimeter high energy beam rifle, and then phase shift armor. It's got a launcher, designed to fire a remote transmitter and broadcast an SOS in case of an emergency. And then it goes into the history. I mean, like I said, there's big geek going on here. And the Atlantic Federation's G project rolled out in January 20 CE71, and then it goes through all this, and it's ZAFT, the whatever ZAFT stands for. I'm assuming, I know something. I remember reading it, something Alliance Federation Treaty or something. I don't know. And piloted by this dude here, and yeah. The Aegis was transported to Earth shortly after the Battle of Orbit on February 13th to pursue Archangel. Dun dun dun. So yeah, it goes through all this stuff, and there's different variants and all this stuff. There's the shield. At least I know what a shield looks like. Beam rifle and shield stored on the side binders. Okay, so we got a rifle. There's a rifle. Okay, so we got that. So yeah, we got a bunch of this stuff here dealing with the X303. We're just going to call them GAT. So anyway, yeah, a lot of cool stuff. And then now what we're going to end up doing is we're going to have to do a little transition over to the desk, because that's where all of that stuff is sitting. So if we take a look there, you can see, yeah, there's the box. So, but I got to move the microphone, turn the chair around. So while I do that, like and subscribe to the channel. There will be a little bit of a transition video showing. I had to dig up some video on this on the show, and I was like, yeah, it reminds me of Speed Racer type of animation, anime type stuff. So with that, let's get to the transition. I told you. Oh, I got another thing I need to do. I need to move the camera around. Well, should I do the camera or should I just do this? I'll just do this. I'll just talk on here. I'm not going to be able to see your comments, but this is a big box. I think I went too big. Unfortunately, I think I went too big. Oh, you know what? I can read comments. So if you want to read a comment, let me see if I can get my dun, 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 na, 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 na. Could be the channel. Yes, I can. Okay. So, and okay, so I think I can end up seeing, yeah, I can see. I can see if we get this, if we get some chat. So if you want to leave some chat stuff in there, go ahead and do that. But again, this is the box, and this is a big box. By looking at this is like, I think I bit off more than I could chew. So yeah, this, and then as I was carrying this, and I was like, you know, going big, or, you know, go big or go home. I thought that might be a thing. Yeah, I think I went too big. This is like 15, it says 15 and above. So yeah, I might be out of my league here. This is made by Bandai Namco. Never got into stuff like this. And what do we end up seeing here? Oh my gosh, you have got to be kidding me. There are so many pieces. Oh wow, seriously? Well, the good thing is they're already colored, so I don't have to paint it. So my pile of shame is already huge. And, you know, I started taking these guys and dry brushing and doing those. I did a video on dry brushing. I got some more stuff that I need to do, but I'm glad I don't have to paint this because my pile of shame is huge. Okay, these parts aren't too bad. They're not too bad. Let's see, we got another one. So I'm assuming this is the left and a right for something. MG1/100. That looks, I don't know. So we got that. Excuse me, I gotta take a swig of my latte here. Oh, that's so good. And then we've got this. There's a lot of parts in here. Holy crow. Got like a dark blue, red, orange. That is a lot of parts. And then of course we have the stickers and the decals and the, seriously. Oh my gosh, there's more. Oh no. That is a lot of parts. These instructions better be rocking. Otherwise, we're just gonna make a Gundam junkyard. Oh no, seriously, more. Oh, and at least, well, I mean, they're still small. So we see that we got some pieces here that look like ball and joint type sockets and stuff like that. Obviously, a lot of different parts and pieces. Holy crow. That is a lot. My nippers, I'm going to have to get some nippers. Well, I've got some. But my nippers are going to be working overtime on this. Hey, I recognize a rifle. Okay, so that's not too bad. At least I can recognize that. Those are a lot of pieces, guys. That is crazy. I mean, look at all this. Look at all this. This is a lot of stuff. As if I didn't have enough time already. If I wasn't busy enough, I'm definitely going to be busy now. This isn't going to be a video where I do this in one sitting. There is no way. Let's see what the... Wow. So that's what it's supposed to look like. And at least I don't have to paint it. So, color guide. Let's see what these directions look like. Yeah, typical. So show the nippers, how to nip it and whatever. So don't leave little dingleberries hanging off of your pieces of the model. Shows you how to use your nippers, so, which I have nippers, which are really nice. Got that with a Corrali K2+. And all of this is in Japanese. So there's going to be a lot of using the phone to get to read some of this stuff. Okay, that's showing you how to put the stickers on there. I know how to do that. And then it shows body unit, head, right arm, left arm, waist, right leg, left leg, shield, rifle. Got a knack for look at that. This is a 1 to 100 scale. So I'm wondering how tall this is going to be. Because this is, I got some room that I could put it on a shelf over here or over on the other one, like my Warhammer and all my other stuff. Oh man. Oh, seriously. Seriously? Really? Okay, so they show you what the unit is supposed to look like all together. I'm assuming this is all the sprues that you need to make this up, and then it goes into the actual pieces that make up the thing. You can actually see the little tiny dude there. See the little tiny dude? Yeah, he's like really, really tiny compared to the rest of the suit. Holy crow. And that's B10 goes on G10, and B11 goes on G8, and then A9, and this whole assembly clicks into the G9 with and that goes on top. Oh, this is going to be a lot. This is going to be a lot of work, folks. I should have went with the smaller one. Really? Thank you, Hack. You know what I might do? My wife said the same thing. She goes, that's a lot of parts. And I'm like, yeah, I know, right? So she says, well, can you take it back? I said, no, I don't think so. All sales are final. But I might go back and just get the smaller one, that first smaller box that you saw in the video. The Master, which is obviously smaller and obviously a lot less parts. Wow, yeah. So we're on page 11, and then it's got some advertisement and cool looking poses. You think about this, it shows you all of this stuff here, and then you go through pages and pages and pages, and then they probably figured out, probably around this area here, step 6 and 7, that you're going to be frustrated and you're going to basically almost throw in the towel, and then they throw in an advertisement of showing you what this thing looks like and how cool it is, and you're kind of re-energize you. I think that's what they end up doing. Does this come with a stand? I don't think so. It shows a stand here, but I don't see any stand stuff. That must be an additional purchase. Again, it's like crack. They get you get the first one, and then you have to buy more and more. So, yeah, and there's the little tiny dude, if you could see him there. So, yeah, he's sitting in the chest, kind of like, I don't know, whatever. So, yeah, they give you this as a breather, refresher, and then it's like, okay, go back to going blind and going crazy with all of these parts. That's page 15. This is page 16. At least you're getting into bigger items here. And ball joint, this, that, gun, saber, whatever, shield, wings, more ball joints. And at least when you get up to here, page 18, at least it looks like something that's actually done. You can articulate it, I guess, which makes me wonder how tight and how fit, how this is going to fit together, and if it's going to be real tight and hold poses or whatever. So, and then we continue on to page 20, and then I guess it shows the different positions it can be in for attack mode and whatever. Man, somebody geeked out over this big time. So, and then you get the final thing with the schematics and all that. The schematics looks kind of cool. Imagine doing a schematic, copy that picture, and then 3D print. Do like 3 or 4 layers, or maybe 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters in black, and then have all of this, the schematic in white, with the Japanese and everything. That would look kind of cool. If you had like all of this here, this bottom section here, everything in black, and then inverse the colors. Everything that's black here would be white on a black background in FDM print. That would be cool. It would be a lot easier to do that than to build this. So yeah, this is going to be a huge, huge project. Wow, this is going to be crazy. I think I should have bought the other one. I should have checked Trivago. You should have checked Trivago. Yeah, should have checked Trivago. So yeah, so now the question is, will I dig into this and build this thing, or should I get the smaller one and do that one first? Because it's a smaller project. If I do this, eventually I'm going to have to do this. There's just I can't just have this and not do it. But this would take a series of videos that I would have to take a day and certain morning or whatever, 1 day a week or something, do and just assemble this thing. If I did that with this, that would take a number of weeks. If we do the smaller one, we would probably still have to take some time to do that, but it wouldn't be as bad. So either way, I'm going to be putting pieces together. Yeah, that's what we got. Like I said, as if I didn't have enough to do already. So, but it does look kind of interesting. I mean, the last time I put together a model with pieces, I must have been like 11 or 12, maybe 10 years old. And I'm going to be 59 here pretty soon, so revisiting. But back then, models were like you know, they're on sprues, and from what I remember, they weren't as intricate or as detailed as this. This is just, there's a ton of parts in there. I mean, that is insane on all the parts. I mean, I remember doing aircraft, I remember doing Jeeps, but nothing as crazy as this. So, wow, we'll see how this goes. So anyway, yeah, that's what we ended up getting, the Aegis Gundam Zaft, something Z-A-F-T, Alliance Federation Treaty Z, I don't know. Oh, Zodiac Alliance Federation Treaty. Why would I remember that? I don't know. I'm usually not this geeky into stuff. So, made in Japan. This was back in 2012. So this has obviously been around for a while. I'm sure there's channels that go over all of this stuff, but yeah. So let's go back to the desk. So with that, I've got another video for you. So watch the video, and as you're doing that, like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll move everything from here, microphone, chair, turn it around, and we'll get back to the desk. So with that, boom. 速やかに進路を変更せよ。敵艦隊より離脱艦あり、艦特定。必須確認よろし。ハッチ開放。進路クリア。射出始め。Yeah, it's getting your geek on. This is that is a big box of stuff. That is a big box of stuff. That is something that, and I'm wondering how tall is this thing going to be? I mean, that looks pretty. It's a big box with a lot of parts, so hopefully it'll fit into, as you can see back here. Hopefully it'll fit in one of those cubbies, as if I didn't have enough stuff in cubbies already. But I guess I could put that in there along with my Star Wars stuff and, you know, the Warhammer inspired models that are not Warhammer, because Warhammer sues everybody that that makes products that look like theirs. But yeah, so Gundam stuff. Gunpla. Gundam is the TV show series, the suits, the shows, the anime, the manga, the official real stuff. And then Gunpla is supposedly the plastic models based on all of these things. So I guess there can be some variation. So it's kind of like an official source is Gundam, and then the Gunpla, they take some liberty with what they do and the representation of certain models. But they can all be plastic models, which we ended up seeing. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, reading through some of this stuff, man, this is just like all kinds of stuff. I don't know. Man, this is going to get deep into it. There's actual games, Super Robot Wars, Mobile Armor Mode, Super Robot Wars D&D. Man. Oh, okay. So here, take a look at this. So we go down here as we're going down the rabbit hole. So they got the television shows and the anime that we kind of watched a little bit. And again, the geekiness of this is just, it's wild. Wild. And I ended up going to Seoul. In Seoul, Korea, there is a huge hobby store place, and it has everything imaginable. And they had a lot of this stuff too, obviously. And I was amazed at kind of how much there is of stuff like this and more. It's just absolutely insane. So Illustration and artwork, yeah, okay. Some of this stuff, and then there's the Gunpla, Aegis. That's the one that we got there. The MG GAT 2012. And then we got other stuff. Let's take a look at this. See what this pops up. It says master grade. So that means it's going to take a long time. What do we end up saying here? Let me see, I got everything. No, I can go up a little bit more. We got everything? Okay, I think we're good there. So this is a line of 1/100 scale Gunpla kits of the mobile suits in Gundam Meta Series. See? Told you this was geeky. The series was first produced in 1995 as part of a 15th anniversary project. Master kits differ from the regular scale with their level of detail, articulation, and proportions being second only to the perfect grade line. So instead of going for like the elementary school, 5 and above, I went to the 15 and above and then the perfect grade line. That would be interesting to see what a perfect grade line is. A majority of the kits feature a skeletal inner frame with working hydraulics. Some also accommodate light kits to give viewers a perspective of the mobile suit size. Many kits come with 1 to 100 scale figures of the pilots or key characters in their respective series. Some kits include 1 in 20 scale of character figures, which we didn't get with this. In 2020, Bandai created a new subline, Master Grade Extreme. That must be like the size of a small car of all the parts that come in there. Custom lighting kits, completely gold washed inner frame or other methods to strongly highlight the uniqueness of this. The subline has its own kits or whatever. Yeah. Just so much stuff, so much geeky stuff, so much geek going on. The Bandai Namco group box covers the reissue and future releases of kits from September, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, we just have more geeky stuff. Special editions from 1996 all the way forward. Exclusives. Master Grade Extreme. Oh, there's Master Grade Extreme. Let's click on that and see what type of. Thankfully, I didn't get that. That looks like a lot of parts. I mean, it looks kind of cool. Excuse me, but. Anime, pictures, blah. Definitely Japanese. I never really got into the Japanese manga, anime type of stuff. So, yeah. And here we have the perfect grade. It's a 1/60th scale. And man, they just make models for days, don't they? That's just crazy. 22,000 yen. What is 22,000 yen? Hey Siri, what is the exchange rate for 22,000 yen to US dollars?
Okay, I found this on the web for what is the exchange rate for 22,000 yen to US dollars. Check it out.
Can't you just tell me? 22,000, it doesn't even, let me see, how much would that come out to? There we go, Japanese, 22,000 Japanese yen is, to USD is $145. So for Master Grade Extreme, 145. I mean, better than Warhammer. Some of those Warhammer things are absolutely insane as far as price. So, yeah, I don't know. This is what we end up going. So, yeah, we ended up grabbing the GAT-X303, and we're gonna build that eventually. I think what I'll end up doing is I'll go back to the hobby store. Maybe I'll go to the other hobby store across the street, the Jay's Hobbies here, where we live in Korea. Go there, see what they have, get a smaller box, so that way. But then, does that mean that it's going to have the same amount of parts, but just everything smaller? I don't know. That would be kind of interesting to see. I don't know. Maybe I have to open up the box to see what's inside. But maybe I'll end up doing that today. Today we've got going on, got the gym we got to go to, so we're going to do that. And then might have some time in the afternoon. Weather's going to be a little interesting today because yesterday was like 93, 94. Today's going to be a high of 94. Good Lord. It's like 10 or 11, 12 degrees hotter than normal during this time of year. So, yeah, it is getting miserable. And then Saturday, Sunday, in case you're wondering, kind of show you what we got going on. So the weather forecast for where we live ends up Saturday is going to be 92. Sunday, so I'll have rain for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days. And it'll bring it down into the 80s, 79, 80s, 89. The humidity will be rocking. But so, yeah, today it's going to be sunny. Tomorrow's going to be sunny, a little bit cooler. So either today or tomorrow, probably what I'll end up doing is going back and I'll pick up the smaller one. Yeah, the smaller one. And then we'll start with the small one first. So, yeah, that's what we got going on. What was amazing is the amount of people that I saw. Of course, when I went in the store, there wasn't anybody there. As soon as I stopped filming, there was like 3 or 4 people came in there. You had people that were young, like real young, super young. And then you had people that I would call young, like young adults, like in their 20s. And then there was as I was walking out and I was checking my phone, I ended up saw a couple in there that were, God, they must have been in their 40s walking into the store. And of course, they're geeked out in all their stuff they're wearing. It's like, yeah, they're going to that store to get their geek on. So yeah, just kind of a interesting thing. Yeah, I don't really not into the Gundam thing. That's not really my thing. I'm more into the Warhammer. Haven't played Warhammer, but that would be interesting to do. But the price points for those things are just absolutely insane. And again, that's the reason I got into resin printing, is because why would I pay 70, 100, tons of money for little tiny figures when I can find them online and print them out on my resin printer for pennies on the dollar? I mean, it just didn't, yeah, there's the initial investment of your machine and all that. Okay. We got a tip that says, "Greetings. The use of Hey Siri is no longer necessary. Simply addressing Siri is sufficient." Really? I didn't know that. Really? Siri, when did Gundam first start?
Okay, I found this on the web for when did Gundam first start. Check it out.
So it can't tell me? Can you just tell me? Anyway, it said it was like 1979 or whatever. So, yeah, it's been around for a minute, and you can imagine all the manga. Being here in Korea, you go to some bookstores, and they just have racks and racks of manga. All kinds of different stuff. Old stuff, new stuff. You got Japanese, Korean stuff, all types of different manga. There's even a manga. There's interesting, is that my daughter's a doctor. She's a doctor in the United States military, which is pretty cool. So she'll do that. but they actually have manga that is based upon human biology, and it explains everything, the processes of red blood cells, white blood cells. It goes through all of this, and apparently it's like spot on for explaining how all of these things work and how they interact and so on and so forth. And they do it through characters and whatever. Looking through it, pretty amazing stuff. And my daughter actually used that to help study, to understand how the human body works and all the different, things that go on and processes and systems and components. It's just absolutely insane what you have to do that. But I thought that was kind of interesting, is that there was actually some good tangible stuff besides just getting your geek on when it comes to manga and anime and things like that. So yeah, cool. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go back. I'll go back to the other hobby store. We'll do another video, kind of the same format as this, and we'll do the smaller one first, because I don't want to jump into this big one, because that's going to take a long time. We'll put that onto the shelf, and then we'll do a smaller one first. My 2 centos says Mobile Suit Gundam first aired April 7th, 1979, created by Yoshiyuki Tomino and Sunrise Studios. Nippon Sunrise, now Bandai Namco Filmworks. Cool. Yeah, interesting. Cool stuff. As if I didn't have enough stuff going on. And on top of this, later on this year, I'm probably going to be getting a larger laser engraver. So, I'm running out of time. Being retired, you would think that I would have more time, but I don't, because I keep picking up hobbies. And of course, you got to have some hobbies. You got to do something physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of that stuff, to be a well-rounded person and to take care of yourself and all that. But man, there's so many hobbies out there. But try something. Like I said, I joined the Army at 17. I put away all the kid stuff that I used to do, and for 20 plus years in the military, and then I retired, I didn't do any creative hobby fun stuff. That was considered childish. At least that's how I was brought up. And then I worked for the state of Colorado, worked in the prison system there, actually 2 medium secure prisons, territorial correctional facility, which is the oldest prison in Colorado, which was a prison before it was even a state. And then Fremont Correctional Facility, and of course the Supermax. I did a few tours and helping out there in the Supermax for the state prison, not the FDX, the federal prison. That one's got some real bad people there. That is ADX has got some crazy people there. But yeah, all of that. And when I got out of the military, I was shooting guns and blowing up stuff and firearms trainer. I never did a lot of I didn't do anything for me. I did the guns and the ammo stuff for me, but other than that was basically it. I was a firearms instructor, so I never really went back to my creative side or did other hobbies that were geeky stuff. So that's kind of interesting. My 2 cents says, my daughter is 7 years old. I stay busy. Oh, I bet you do. Oh, man. And we have a daughter, and she's in her 30s. Like I said, she's a doctor. Matter of fact, she's stationed here, so we get to see her. She is crazy busy because they were so understaffed at the hospital. But yeah, I remember when she was 7. And girls talk. Oh, they talk. Talk. But all honesty, I think I would rather have a daughter than a son. So, my stepbrothers ended up having some boys, and those boys are insane. So, yeah, of course, then I remember what I was like when I was a little kid, and I was a little boy. It was pretty crazy. Wow. But yeah, 7 years old at 65. Wow. Rocking it. Take care of her. Yeah, definitely take care of her. And I know you're going to be raising her right, too. So that's the important thing these days. So yeah, we got that going on. Some other interesting stuff that doesn't have to do with the hobby stuff, and it has to do more with Korea, is that we found out some information in regards to F1 and F4 visas. And I kind of heard some stuff about this, but I wasn't exactly sure. The wife met with the immigration lawyer yesterday. They went and had lunch and coffee. They're great people. And the immigration lawyer and my wife, kind of biased about the wife for some strange reason. But my wife was asking about the F1 and the F4 visas here in Korea, and it ends up they work on a 5-year cycle, which is kind of interesting. So you apply for your F1 and F4 visa, and then after that, it ends up that you have this 5-year cycle. So when you apply for those visas, you can renew them. Like my wife's was like 2 years the first time or 3 years the first time, and then she has to renew, and it'll be 2 years the second time, so a total of 5 years. For me, my first year, I only had 1 year for my first visa term. And then I renewed, and then I got it for 2 additional years. And then a couple more years, it'll be done. So it'll have 5 years. At the end of that 5 years of those visas, you have to redo the F1 and F4 visa. So in other words, you can't just keep extending. There we go. That was bugging me. You just can't keep extending. You actually have to redo the entire application for the F1 and F4 visa, which I thought was very interesting. I've never heard anybody talk about that before. And then some other interesting things for those people is that, like, my wife used to be a Korean citizen. She became a U.S. citizen, and then we came back to Korea on that F4 visa, which she has. I have the F1 visa. And then if you hit 65 for my wife, she would be able to get dual citizenship, which you think would be awesome. But the problem is there can be some issues with that because, like, for NEO evacuations, for those of you who are in the military overseas, the NEO evacuation orders, in case a natural disaster or war pops up here in Korea or wherever you're at, the military will escort and move families and dependents out of the country, out of harm's way, to Japan and eventually back to the United States. Well, what we found out is that because my wife at age 65 would have dual citizenship, she would go down on the priority level of being evacuated. Yeah, weird. Absolutely crazy. So, and then there were some other things as well. Somebody was talking, she had mentioned that somebody who was currently working for the government, which doesn't apply to me at all, but had like a top secret clearance and all this stuff. And so when his wife ended up getting dual citizenship, that kind of put his security classification at a different risk a little bit. And there was some considerations, and there are jobs like that where if you marry a foreign national or if your spouse is not a full U.S. citizen, that can cause some interesting things in the world of security clearances and things like that. So, for example, one of the jobs that I wanted to get while I was in service is to eventually work for White House Communications. I have been kind of a guy that I knew, a sergeant that I had worked for, he had worked at White House Communications, loved the job and all that stuff. And then he got out, and then he came back in the military. So that's how I found out about that. But when I applied for White House Communications, back then, one of the considerations was that, yeah, you can't marry a foreign national. Well, I had just recently married my wife, who was a Korean citizen, so that took me off the list of being able to go to White House Communications. And this guy had actually put in good words for me, and, you know, that would have been so cool. But White House Communications or my wife, I would definitely pick the wife. Let's see. My 2 cents says, I would love for my daughter to go to school in South Korea. She was born in Jeonju. Cool. Wow. The only thing with Korean schools is, I mean, our daughter was born here in Korea at 121 Hospital up in Yongsan. And then about 3 or 4 weeks later, we flew to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I thought I was going to be there a while. But we spent 1 year and 10 months, and I got orders to come right back to Korea. Is that insane? When people, the word was, you get to Campbell, you're going to stay 4 or 6 years before you go overseas again. Well, I had a year and 10 months. So that pissed me off. So we came to Korea. My daughter ended up going to school. I extended a bunch of times. And of course, she went to school on the military base. And then eventually, when we went back to the United States, she was at a higher level than the rest of the kids that were in her grade level. So they did more work in the military schools. The Korean schools, I don't know. We see the wife's family and the cousins and nephews and their kids, and Korean schools are no joke. They are serious. And because you go to school during the day, and then you got your Hagwons, you got your English, you got your piano, you got this and that, math, you have all these different tutoring sessions and academies that you can go to, and there's a huge emphasis on education. And while the education is top notch, it does put a lot of stress on the child. So, I think there needs to be a happy medium or balance with that. But definitely Korea has way better education than the United States. When you look at kids in California, New York, there's kids that are graduating that don't even know how to read. And I remember, there was this video. My wife showed it to me, and it showed these kids in England that were high school students. And then you had high school students that were Korean, and they ended up taking this test. And the Korean kids went through it, boom, no problem. The high school kids, I want to say it was sophomore or junior level. I think he was a sophomore. He took the test, failed it miserably. And so they talked to, the British kids, and they talked to the Korean kids, and it was like, hey, how did you think the test? Oh, it was pretty easy. We've done all that before in junior high, yeah, that's like middle school level on this section here. We've done that. That was easy. That was no problem. Was it really a hard test? And the Koreans were like, a couple questions, but it was a fairly easy test. And then the British kids, they went to them and said, well, what did you think of that test? Oh, that's the hardest test I ever had. And, low scores, the whole 9 yards. So I couldn't imagine the United States if you did something like that. When you have kids in the United States that graduate and can't even read, it's no wonder we have problems, absolutely crazy. So anyway, okay. He says, I had 2 boys attend Osan Middle High School. Okay, middle and high school. Yeah, Osan had a good program there. That's Osan Air Base, for those of you who don't know, we're in the Camp Humphreys area. It's about 20, 30 minutes, depending on traffic. Kind of that direction. You're just going to have to trust me on that. Is Osan Air Base, with Songtan is the city outside of Osan Air Base, and Osan Air Base is kind of like the real nice place. So, at least to us Army folks. But yeah, they had a good school system. The school system here, they've got like a elementary, middle, high school here at Camp Humphreys. It's now the largest overseas military base for the United States in the world. They got like 35,000 people here, which is insane. They're not going to be leaving anytime soon. But I'm kind of dismayed. Because we will go on post. We're retired, so we got lots of time. So we go on post in the morning, and the kids get dropped off at 8-ish or somewhere, 7:30, maybe 7:45 or something like that. I forget exactly. But you'll see them out at the bus stop here. You see them on post, and the buses unload, and then by 2 o'clock, 2:15, the buses are pulling up, and you see kids walking down the street, and it's like, how many hours did you go to school? I mean, and then you got to throw in lunch, so that's got to be at least a half hour, minimum a half hour for lunch. So let's say it's 8 o'clock, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. So that's 6 hours. And then you end up having lunch. So take a half hour, maybe 45 minutes out of that. And then you have passing periods, which are 5 or 10 minutes in between classes. So really, when you get down to it, you've got, 4 hours of school a day? And even then, it's like, what do you do in a half day? Good Lord, that's crazy. And and so many days off. So many days off. It's totally insane. I mean, I went to school, it was like from 6 in the morning to 5 at night, and going uphill, snow each way. That whole thing. But it's just kind of crazy. And you see and hear these kids, high schoolers, you go to the food court and stuff, and you listen to them as they're sitting next to you in booths or whatever, and you're just like, oh my gosh, these kids are dumb as a box of rocks. A lot of them are just, wow, yeah, okay. Anyway, oh no, we got a super chat. Seriously, dude. Great Gundam content as well as other topics. Have a coffee when ready. Yes, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. Again, super chat is awesome. Or you have to put like a special star and boom, just nail it. Wow, that's crazy. That is some good stuff. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Yeah, so just so much stuff going on. Let's see, what else do we got here? Oh, we got another comment. Said it would cost me $25,000 a year to pay out of pocket for DoD school. Nice if you work and be command sponsored. Yeah, that's true. Which the great thing about when I was enlisted, but I extended, and when I had my family, it ends up, I kind of did the dope deal where it ends up where I got with the command and said they knew that I did a good job and so on and so forth. So I would say, hey, I did good. I will continue to do good. Let me extend, but let me be able to have command sponsorship, or at least, allow my kid to be able to come into school and let me have off-post housing and, separate rations and stuff like that. Ferthus, hey, he's back. Yes, good seeing you, sir. Good seeing you. Yeah, we just went over the Gundam model, which is insane. This huge box, that is huge. That's what we ended up doing. We actually got this, and there are so many parts in this thing. It is insane. I think I bit off more than I could chew in this. So, yeah, it's crazy. So I think we're going to end up going, just catch therapists and whoever zoomed into here. We'll get the smaller one, so that way it won't be time intensive. So that'll go on the shelf, and we'll do the smaller one first. But now we're after that, and we're just kind of talking about Korea and things like that. Yeah. Nice. Looks like a lot of fun. There's a lot of parts. The good thing is, at least with Gundam, it's all colored plastic, so you don't have to paint it. So that's one less thing that I have to worry about. But the amount of parts in that kit is insane. So that is going to be crazy putting that together. So we're going to do a smaller one. We'll do that first, but that's going to take a series of videos. I don't want work anymore. Yeah, I know, right? But it's funny because I ended up, people think about retirement, and I look back to my grandparents. When my grandfather retired, he did a career, he did 30 years in the military. He did Army Air Corps, and then it became the Air Force, so he went to the Air Force side, and then he did 30 years of that. He retired for 6 months, and then he went right back to doing the same job as a GS-13, I think it was. Excuse me. But he did that, but then when he retired, it was like cutting the lawn. It was cleaning the swimming pool. They lived in San Bernardino, California. But that was basically it. And his activity level went down. Wasn't real active. Didn't have any hobbies or anything. So as soon as he retired after 40 years of military and government service, things went downhill for my grandparents, like really, really quick. And he was always in good shape and stuff, but as soon as he retired, he got smaller and smaller and smaller. And then he just, my grandmother too, she got small. Senior people don't eat a lot. And no activities, no hobbies. I mean, they would play cribbage or hearts or stuff like that, but nothing outside of that. It was really, and that wasn't too often, you know. And I think that's something that there's a vast difference between my grandparents and my wife and I. Now that we're retired, you know, we try to stay active in the gym, we work out, you know, we do the hobby stuff, and she's got, you know, she's starting to do painting and learning to play piano and all that stuff. So we have different activities and stuff that we do, along with our physical activities, and then we'll go out in coffee shops and, you know, take trips to Costco. You know, I did a Costco trip on that. The next one will be better. But it's just interesting to see the difference between retiring generations. And they waited a long time to retire. I retired at 53, 54, 53, 54, 54, 55, somewhere around there, 54. Retired early, and then, you know, we came to Korea, which allowed us to retire early and just have all this time. But you have to stay busy, because if you don't stay busy and you don't have some type of stress, that's actually more detrimental. And if you don't use it, you lose it. So that's one of the important things. Ferrithus comes back, because we were talking about the Gundam set. It's like one of those giant Lego sets. Kind of, except there's way more parts. Way more parts. Kako talk. Kako. That was her daughter saying she loves us and have a good day. So she's awesome. She's going to be here for a year and a half. Another year. She's been here about 6 months. She'll be here for another year and a half, and then she'll go off and do other stuff. My 2 cents, he says, I worked 41 years with the Air Force. Wow, that is a lot of time. I did just over 20 with the Army. I wanted to do like 24, 26, and I wanted to do that, but then they tried to send me on recruiting duty, and back then that was like guaranteed divorce. You know, here's your orders for recruiting, and oh, by the way, here's your divorce papers. And about that time, I was just fed up with the military and the micromanaging, and I retired in 2005. So not enough to retire, but that allowed us to, and then I worked for the state of Colorado and did 11 plus years there in the prison system, guard, lieutenant, and, you know, did electronics, security electronics, and all that kind of stuff. So electronics background in that. There's a story on how I did that. It was absolutely crazy on how I got that job, but we'll save that for another video. Ferrithus says, nice. I had a friend at college that spent a year in South Korea for his master's. Wow. We were talking about Korean education. Korean schools are no joke. It is serious. There's such a high value on education, because the whole idea is to work for one of the big conglomerates here in Korea, one of the chaebols, you know, like Samsung or LG or whatever. You know, there's this kind of like mafia, you know, the big family business names that have been here forever, trying to get one of those high-end jobs. And to do that, you have to have high-end experience. And to have high-end experience, you have to have high-end college, and you have to have great scores, which means you have to have good scores in high school, and then junior high, and middle school, and elementary school. And it even goes so far that preschool have qualification requirements for the really good ones. You know, in the United States, it's like, hey, watch my kid, he's in preschool, boom, I'm off to go do my job. No, there are preschools here where you basically have to have a resume for your child, and there's waiting lists, you know, and they just don't, you know, allow in any kid that's just like licking windows and whatever, you know. It's just kind of, you know, those kids need not apply. So kind of like, we have a family member on the wife's side of the family who their daughter is awesome, and she can read and write. She is learning English, but it's like she's like 4 or 5 years old or something. She's way far ahead of the curve. So the family's trying to get her into this high-end preschool, and back in the day, she's like 4. But they tried to get her into the high end preschool thing. And yeah, they basically asked for a resume. And what does your daughter do? Then they have an interview with the parent and the child, and they ask the child, to figure out, is she just dumb as a bag of hammers, or is she, is she really smart and have potential, and so on and so forth. It is insane. And then if she gets in there, then she can get into a good elementary school, and then you kind of go for the junior high and middle school, high school, and everything is geared towards going towards that next level of getting the ultimate education. It is absolutely crazy. So yeah, it is, man. My wife is smart, and we're the exact opposite. So I'll just leave it at that. Fairness. So me eating my Play-Doh rockets would not have gotten me on trouble over there. Whew. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I remember playing with sticks and stones and, eating dirt and stuff like that. And here Korean kids are like, quantitative physics and doing math equations and all of that stuff. And it's like, wow, that's crazy. And the education level, the difference in education between the United States and Korea is absolutely crazy. Oh yeah, believe it or not, I did 55 years of information tech. Time to enjoy the remaining time on the planet. After 55 years, sir, you deserve it. You do whatever you want and enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, don't do it. Just enjoy it and do it. That's wild. 55 years. Yeah, we talked about that. That is crazy. Yeah, that is a long time to be working. But yeah, that's doing that much work. Eventually you got to retire. Eventually or you die trying, and I had people like that. When I worked in the Department of Corrections, we had a number of people that died on the job in the prisons. Yeah. There was a guy, he was waiting, he kept pushing it back. He was going to work for the state because their retirement system the formula is kind of geared towards your age plus the number of years has to reach a certain number, and then you're eligible for, basic retirement, 50% or whatever. Now it's not even 50%. Colorado has mismanaged money and funds so bad, there's not even that anymore. So, but to get even above 50%, every year after that you get a certain percentage. So he was going to go for the full retirement, 125% or whatever it was going to be. And he kept working. He ended up dying and having a heart attack in the prison mess hall, which was crazy. And he never got to retire, which is sad. That's sad. So, Ferris says, they still made me a physicist in Germany. I'm a living example that eating Play-Doh should not be a disqualifier. So you're a rocket scientist. All of these smart people, and then there's me. Yeah. Yeah. Apparently I'm on the side of the Play-Doh dirt eating people that didn't excel as well as others. Let's put it that way. I got some college. Did my college in the military. I got about 3 years of college, but I didn't get a degree, unfortunately, because it did business management. Then I got into electronics a little bit, but the higher level classes, because a lot of my time was overseas, there weren't enough people to get those higher level classes, because you needed at least 10 or more students or whatever to get the class to run. And so, yeah, I just kind of did that. But yeah, I still was able to sneak into the state of Colorado as an electronics technician. And I guess I'll tell you the story on that. So in the military, it ends up, I joined when I was 17, and I took the ASVAB test, and I didn't do too bad. I was pretty smart, but if I had a problem. If I didn't understand why I needed to learn something, I would be stubborn and I wouldn't want to learn it. In other words, I didn't want to learn useless information. So I had some problems in school at times. There was issues with me in school. So anyway, it ends up, so I do my military time. I'm in communications. I was a 31 Victor, which is communications, and it became 31 Golf and whatever, 25 uniform or whatever. A lot of name changes for jobs. And then eventually I became a senior instructor in the Field Artillery School. That was my last assignment. So I did a lot of communication stuff. UHF, VHF, TACSAT radios, FM, AM, all of that stuff, class development. So technical manuals, helped write a number of those while I was an instructor, classes. So, I was smart. I liked that stuff. But when I retired, and then I ended up working for the state of Colorado, I started out as a knuckle dragging guard. So, yeah, the last job that anybody ever wants is to be a correctional officer because they are bottom of the barrel. I'm just saying it. Nobody ever dreams of saying, hey, I want to be a correctional officer. I want to be a soldier. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a doctor. No one ever says, I want to be a guard. But I needed a job at the time. So I took the exam. Of course, I got in. I scored 100%, 5% veterans preference points. So I'm thinking, boom, I'm in. I'm going to get hired in the next 2 weeks. No, it was a year later. So they called back, hey, do you still want the job as a knuckle dragging guard? And I'm like, I scored 105, and they were short personnel. So I don't know. It's just a testament to the inefficiency of the Department of Corrections in Colorado. So anyway, I did the guard thing. Then I ended up, I was helping out a guy who was doing electronics work. He was putting in cameras and doing remote controls for control panels. And so this was on graveyard shift. So he's up on my floor and he's like, hey, can you hold this for me? Hold the flashlight. I guess he thought that's the only thing guards were good for. And then I was like, hey, why don't you route this over here and do this? And then it would be easier, whatever. And he's kind of looking at me. He's like, how did you know that? And I was like, well, I did communications electronics in the military. So we stop. He pulls up on the computer a job for an electronics technician. He goes, does this look familiar to what you did in the military? Calibrations, repair, troubleshooting, the whole 9 yards. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much on spot with what I did, except it was, military communications equipment. It wasn't, like door panels and, cameras and things like that. And he says, yeah, but you still have that. Long story short, I applied for this job as an electronics technician. And the world of the Department of Corrections, Colorado, is pretty small. And it's even smaller when you get down to these specialized fields like electronics and things like that. So we were kind of like unicorns, very rare. So it's a small world. So I go in and I have my resume and all this stuff, did my security clearance and all that. I'm already good to go. I go and do the interview. I see a guy who would be a supervisor over me if I got the job. And then his co-boss, and then there was a plant manager who was like the major who worked for the facility as a whole, being the supervisor for all the maintenance personnel. And so yeah, I did it. I said, hey, this is what I've done. I worked on all this equipment, repaired this equipment, so on and so forth. It's all military equipment. I don't know what you have here, but if I had the chance, I'd love to do that. And so I did my thing, give my spiel, boom, there you go. So I get a call back, and it was like 2 or 3 weeks later, and they're like, yeah, the boss, the guy who would be my boss, Lance. And he says, I'm calling you, letting you know, I was one of the top 3. I didn't get the job. I was number 2. And I was like, crap. And he said, no. He says, you did good. He says, it's rare that these jobs come up. He said, but just keep an eye out for electronics jobs. He says, because at that time I was younger. And he said, we need people like you, that have experience. A lot of people have electronics experience, but it's not as extensive as what I did. Well, apparently the guy who got first place and got the job, he had a lot more. He had done like industrial electronics and relays and servos and did all kinds of crazy stuff, which was, yeah, far outside my wheelhouse. So then I go back to being a knuckle dragging guard. No problem. I'm still working, still getting paid, still getting benefits. It's all right. A few weeks later, through the rumor mill, we hear that somebody got a DUI and that the electronics job might be coming open again. And I'm like, of course, this is all rumor. Nothing official. It's just whatever comes through the grapevine. So a few weeks after that, I get another phone call. It's from this guy, Lance. And Lance was like, hey, Wilson, Mr. Wilson, you still interested in that job? And I'm like, yeah, sure, yeah. Sure, I'd love to be an electronics technician that works on electronics instead of, doing strip outs of inmates and tossing cells and so on and so forth, all of the regular guard stuff. I said, yeah, I'd like to do that. And he said, yeah, we have that position open and you were number 2, so if you want the job, let me know. And I said, yeah, I'll take it. So how did I get the job? What happened was the guy that was first place, soon as they called him and told him, hey, congratulations, you got the job, you got to do some paperwork, and he was a civilian coming in to work with the Department of Corrections. So he got the okay. He would have to go through their 6 or 8 week basic training into corrections, and then he would start his job. So he thought this was awesome. He goes out and parties. He goes out and gets a DUI. So it ends up, he got the DUI, got fired from his civilian job, and because he got a DUI, that removed him from, the waiting list and going into the academy for Department of Corrections. It's like, yeah, you get a DUI, yeah, no, you're not going to do that, especially if it's a current DUI. So he was out of the mix, lost his job, lost the job opportunity with Department of Corrections. So basically, I got the job because somebody got drunk and drank and drive. He got a DUI, and that's how I got the job. So I slid into that, and yeah, wonders never cease. So yeah. Crazy stuff. So anyway, that's what we got going on. So for you rocket scientists and physicists and IT people and all of you crazy people out there, my hat's off to you for doing the awesome stuff. I got into my job. It was basically OJT with the Department of Corrections electronics equipment. It was like, hey, do you know anything about fiber optics? Sure, yeah. And then I'd go home and I'd scour the internet to, what the hell is a fiber optic? I'm going through. It was funny because they ended up and said, hey, do you know anything about slicing fiber optic cable? And of course I said, yeah, it was a long time ago. I'd have to brush up on it. But yeah, I've got experience in that. And then I'd go home and get on the internet and it was like, okay, how to splice fiber optic, and get the general gist of it and going to libraries and stuff. Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. But it was funny because basically nobody else had the experience either. So when I showed up with the limited information that I got off of an internet search, it made me look good. It's easy to look good when everybody around you is not. It's kind of like the one-eyed man is king in the land of the blind. I was the one-eyed king, because I could do some internet searching. But yeah, that was kind of funny. Yeah, it is so much stuff. But the good thing is I was able to, to pick up on all the systems, worked on door controls and panels and cameras and PTZs and fiber optic, actually did fiber optics and splicing and all of that stuff, which was really kind of fun. I like doing that stuff because I'm by myself or not around a lot of people. Stun fences, we put in, I probably, during my time, probably put in over 800 or 900 cameras, and then switching systems, computer, classrooms, running the LAN, Cat5 cables and all of that stuff and putting them into switches and boards and stuff like that. Just learn as you go. And by the time by the time I quit, I knew basically everything there was to know about that facility, a Fremont Correctional Facility. And then they pissed me off, and then it was like, yeah, I quit. I'm done. And then they didn't have anybody, because my boss, it wasn't Lance. Lance had left and went somewhere else, and so then I got another guy who was my boss, a guy named Kelly. And Kelly was getting close to retirement, and I wanted to stay until he retired so we would both leave at the same time, and then the facility would be left in a lurch because they pissed us off. But it just got so bad that I actually quit before Kelly retired. But it wasn't like so far. So he could just like pawn everything else off, and yeah, he ended up retiring a couple months later. And then they were really hurting. So it was, but then it's just a number. Nobody cares. You're a number. And yeah, they had problems, but oh well, they found somebody else to do it, and they're another number. So nobody misses me now that I'm gone, and they won't miss you. The majority of people won't miss you from work. So yeah, Ferrithus says education isn't everything. When I applied for my current job, I learned later that I apparently beat people out with PhDs, although I had none, because I had hands-on experience building stuff. Yeah, that's a huge thing. If you know how to do something, you're golden. It's not what you know. It's it is what you know. It's about knowing what to do and when to do it and doing it right. So yeah, and you get that experience. You could be smart as the day is long, but if you don't know how to put the thing together and make it work, yeah, all that is just useless knowledge, really. It sounds good, in meetings and stuff like that, but if you can't do the stuff and make it work, and yeah, that's kind of the fun stuff. So yeah, I got my job by someone getting a DUI. The Great Pretender. We'll just put it that way. It worked out good. So yeah, there it is. So anyway, we're going to finish up with this because I hear the wife is puttering around, and again, it's our gym day, so we got to go do that. Going to hit that other hobby store. We'll get the smaller case for that, and a lot of stuff. Smart people, way smart people. I like the smart people on the feed and the discussions we have. Thank you for putting up with me. Oh, and thank you for the super chats and all that. That is incredibly kind, people. I really appreciate that. And all of those funds are going to go back into the channel. Ferris says, I tell all students I meet to get a job in the field that they want to work in during college. Not become a waiter if they don't have to. Yeah. And it's the trade stuff. It's actually the stuff, kind of like the IT stuff. And, if you know how to do those things in the trade schools, electronics, the IT and all that stuff is not going away. And there's big money in that stuff. Unfortunately, you get a lot of kids these days that get degrees in stuff that, it's just absolutely crazy. And they can't get jobs, and so they end up being a waiter or being a barista or whatever with a 4-year college degree and whatever that they can't get a job in. It's like, well, why did you want that degree anyway? It didn't make sense. I never understood that. So anyway, yeah, we'll close out this video. We'll finish that out, and we did a lot of good stuff here. Ferrithus says, have a good workout, Steve. Always fun chatting. Same to you, sir, and everybody else that has been here, especially... Where was it? Oh, there it is. The super chat. Again, thank you for the super chat, sir. You are awesome. Just kind of like all these people that bought coffee and super chats and whatever. Email, there it is. Buy me coffee in the box down below, the whole 9 yards. Like and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you on the next video, all. Good talking. We'll see you. All right? Peace. Man, that's a lot of parts in that box. That is a lot of parts.